In this video, we're going to create this simple BMI calculator using React.js. It's a very simple application, so we're going to create it in 20 minutes. If you liked my video, please hit the subscribe button. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's start. The first step is to create a folder on your desktop. We call it BMI React. Now let's go to command line or CMD of Windows. Using the terminal, I open my VS Code. Let's open the terminal and create our React app using Vite. Here we type Y as yes and we proceed. Then let's choose React and then we're going to use only JavaScript. So as you can see, our React app has been created. In order to run our app, we need one more step to take. We need to install our Node modules. In order to do that, let's type npm install. It's going to take a while. Alright, now using npm run dev, you can run your React app. Now we need to copy this link and open it with your browser. Here we go. This is our React app. Now let's open our src folder. Now that we have our React app files, let's start with app.jsx. We need to delete the default code snippet and replace it with a new one using the RAFC shortcut. To use this shortcut, make sure you have the React extension installed. If you're not, you'll need to write the component manually. To test the app, let's write BMI Calculator and let's save the project. Now, alright, it works. Now, let's clear out all the content inside app CSS and index CSS. You know what? Let's just delete the app CSS file entirely since we won't be using it. We'll handle all the styling in index CSS instead. Alright, now let's create a div with a class of container. And inside that div, we create an h1. Inside the h1, we're going to create a BMI calculator. And under that, let's go for the label. It's going to be for height. And we'll write inside the label tag height and cm, which means centimeters. Now under the label, let's create an input. The type's going to be a number. Let's give it an ID of height. And the placeholder of EG 170. Now another label for weight. Inside the label, let's write weight. And for example, kilogram. The input, the type is going to be a number and the ID of weight. In the placeholder, e.g. 60 or 65. And now let's create comments because we want to have a clean code. This is the height part, this is the weight part, and under that, we create a btn. This is where our button is going to take place. We write calculate. The next step is the result. So we create a div with a class of result, class name result. This is where our result is going to take place. So now we have our whole component. The h1 is actually the heading tag, and I'm going to make a comment for that as well. So everything is now set up. It is time for the styling. Let's go to index CSS. Here is where we do our styling. So first things first, let's give it a default margin of 0, a padding of 0. And the box sizing is going to be border box. So let's go to index.html. Inside the root directory, change the title to BMI Calculator, and we need to bring our robotophones right here. So let's go to our browser, robotophones, and click on Google Phones, get found, and get embed code. Let's copy the link and let's paste it right here. Very good. Now I'm going to give it a font family of Roboto. Perfect. Now the body tag is going to have a background color of 0F172A. Perfect. The color F1, F5, F9, and the display is going to be flex, justify content center, align item center, and the height is going to be 100 V height. Very good. For the container, we give it a background color of 1E293B, the padding 2 rem, and the border radius is going to be 12 pixels. Now let's give it a box shadow. Okay. And a width of 100% and the max width of 400 pixels. The text align should be center, and I think that's it. Let's go for the H1, the color 3B82F6, the margin bottom 1 rem. Now the label should have a display of block and a margin of 1 rem, 0.5 rem. The input should have a width of 100%, a padding of 0.75 rem, and a border none. And a border radius of 8 pixels. The background color should be 0F172A, like the background, and the color should be F1, F5, and F9. So the font size should be 1 rem, and the box shadow all right. The button, so we're going to give it a margin top 1.5 rem and a padding of 0.75 rem. The background color should be 3B82F6 and the color F1, F5, F9. So the border is going to be none and the border radius is 8 pixels. The font size should be 16 pixels. The font weight 700. Now the cursor should be pointer as well. The transition, background, color 0.3 seconds, 3 milliseconds actually, and ease. Now let's give it a hover. The background color should be on hover 60A5FA. Excellent. Now it is time for the result. Now we have nothing inside result, so let's just write something inside result. For example, this is a test for result. So now we can see result. We give it a margin top 1.5 rem and a font size 1.2 rem. Let's give it a font weight of 600 and a color of 60A5FA. Very good. Now you can see the whole project. This is the whole UI of our project. It's time to start writing our code to get the form working. First, we'll use the useState hook to manage our input values. Start by declaring state variable like this. So we write const, and inside the brackets, we write height and set height, and we say equal to useState. Make sure to use uppercase for useState and leave the parentheses empty with just an empty string as the initial value. We'll repeat this line 3 times to create state variables for height, weight, and result. So we say weight and set weight and result and finally set result. Perfect. Next, let's create a function to calculate the BMI. We'll use an arrow function. So we say const calculate BMI, and the first thing we do in the function is a condition. We say if there is no height or there is no weight, you should set the result. Please enter both height and weight and then return. This way, you won't let the user to leave the inputs empty. Now let's define a new variable called height in meters. We'll convert the height from centimeters to meters by dividing it by 100. Next, we'll calculate the BMI using the formula weight divided by height in meters squared. We'll round the result to 1 decimal place using dot to fixed function. And inside the parentheses, we should write 1. This gives us the user's body mass index based on their input. Now it's time to define our BMI categories. We'll start by creating a variable called category and set it to an empty string by default. Next, we'll use a series of conditions to assign the correct category based on the BMI value. So we say if the BMI is less than 18.5, the category will be underweight. If the BMI is less than 25, the category will be normal weight. If the BMI is less than 30, the category will be overweight. And otherwise, the category will be obese. This way, we can clearly label the user's BMI result and give them a better understanding of where they stand. Finally, we set the result, and inside parentheses, you must use backticks because we want to use variables inside it. Don't use single or double quotes. We write your BMI is, and then you should use the $sign and curly braces. We say $BMI. So in this case, we use actually the BMI variable, and then we add a colon, and we write you are, then again, a $sign and the variable of category inside curly braces. Now, before we move on, there's one thing that probably has taken your attention, and that's why the form is not showing in our page. That's simple. It's because we have missed something in our code. When you use a hook such as useState or useEffect, you need to import it at the top of your React component. Well, we don't need this import React from React, but instead we must import the useState hook at the top of the component. And don't forget to put it inside curly braces. And now the form is showing. Great. Let's continue. It's time to make our form and inputs function. Let's start from the height input. We should first give it a value, and that would be the height. It comes from our height from the useState we've already defined. To make the input work, we need to write onChange. And this line, actually, let me write it first. So we say onChange, and then in parentheses, we put an E and set height. And inside parentheses, again, we put e.target.value. Now, what does this line actually do? This line sets up an event handler for an input field in React. Here's what it's doing. OnChange is a React prop that listens for changes in the input field, like when the user types something. E inside parentheses set height E the targeted value is an arrow function that runs every time the input changes. E actually stands for the event object. E the targeted value gets the current value of the input field, and then set height into, I don't know anything, updates the height state with that new value. So whenever the user types into the input, this function grabs the new value and updates the height state with it. Let's do the same thing for weight input. We give it the value of weight and the onChange prop, and the onChange prop is the same as we did in height. The button gets an onClick prop, and inside that we put our function calculate BMI, because whenever we click on the button, we want this function to run. For the result, all we have to do is to write the result inside the div. And again, don't forget the curly braces. And I made a mistake, let's fix it. In front of value prop, we're not supposed to put quotation marks. I should have used curly braces. Sorry. And then I write the name of the variable, which is weight. So don't forget to correct this one. Now I put 180 in height and 78, for example, in weight. Then I click on the button and I get this. Your BMI is 24.1. You are normal weight. If I give it, for example, 50, it shows you are underweight. 90 shows you are overweight. And 150 shows you are obese. You have now a fully functional simple BMI application using React.js. I hope you liked this video. If you have any suggestion or feedback to help me improve my channel, please drop me a comment, and if you liked my video, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.